Any school choice measure I would consider must be done the Idaho way. That means it is fair, responsible, transparent, and accountable. It must prioritize the families that need it most, and it must not take away funds from public schools.
Well, it didn't take long for Governor Little to talk about the big old elephant in the room that just won't leave. Page 2 of his 6-page speech brought us school choice, something state lawmakers have been trying to bring to Idaho since the 2022 session. That year, it was called an education savings account that would give parents 90% of what the state spends per student. Back then, that was about $6,750 per year per student. Well, that bill never made it out of committee. Then in 2023, another ESA bill died in the Senate, while the idea of a school choice tax credit was barely killed in a House committee. But a very similar bill will be teed up this session, in the words of one of its sponsors, as soon as possible. Representative Wendy Horman talked about it today in a public hearing alongside former Arizona Governor Doug Ducey to promote a school choice bill being pushed through the Idaho legislature this session. And while we likely, again, won't see a draft until probably at earliest next week, we were told this year's shot at school choice, just like last year's, would offer a tax rebate to parents up to $5,000 per student to pay for educational experiences. Educational experiences, well, that would include tuition to a private school, a micro school, a learning pod, or whatever it might cost to homeschool your kid. And it would also cover transportation. And like last year's bill, the cost to the state would be capped at $50 million, we're told. But the difference this time around,
that money that they're going to be rebating through that tax credit could be invested in
is prioritizing all low-income families.
how does that work?
So last year we just had a $10 million grant that was available to low-income, and the other $40 million was available universally. This time it will only become available to universal after the time frame for low-income, and it may get filled with the low-income. Wealthy families already have school choice. They, regardless of their address, regardless of what their public school is or isn't offering, they can afford to send their child to another option. Low-income families don't have that opportunity, and this bill will create that.
Accountability was an issue previous years, like none. Does this one have that?
Absolutely. It has strong fiscal accountability because if you commit tax fraud, it's a felony. Academic accountability because it requires English, social studies, math, and science to be taught, just like we require in the public schools.
But are there tests that go along with that?
No.
So no test to say you're teaching it and they're learning it.
Correct. The strongest form of accountability, I believe, I agree with Governor Ducey on that, is parents and a school earning the privilege to educate someone's child.
Okay, so the priority is low-income families. So what would this bill consider low-income priority? Any family earning less than 300% of the federal poverty level, we're told. For a family of 4, that would mean they're making less than $93,600 a year. And there will be a deadline for those families to take advantage. After that, it then opens up to anyone. Representative Horman made it clear this money would not be coming from the public school budget, but that doesn't matter, according to the Idaho Education Association.
that money that they're going to be rebating through that tax credit could be invested in public schools. Why would we invest in vouchers when our public schools are chronically underfunded for over decades? It's an intentional chronic underfunding of public education in this state that has driven this need that they see for vouchers, for creating another alternative opportunity for people to go to a different kind of school. If you fully funded public schools the way that they should be funded, the way the Idaho Constitution mandates that they be funded, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
As Representative Horman said, there is a $50 million cap on this one.
Every voucher bill that I've ever heard of that was ever approved by any legislature started off as a measured, capped bill. They always come back in later years, open up the box again, make it bigger, make it bigger, make it bigger every year.
They've been trying this for years. And as you heard today, their argument is the reason it hasn't gone through is because of the establishment blocking it. What do you think about that?
The lawmakers in previous years have seen the light around what the real challenges with vouchers are. They understand that there is no accountability for these tax dollars. They understand that they do hurt rural schools and rural students. They have understood that this is a tax rebate or assistance for a wealthy family who's trying to send their Boise private school student to a school when rural students are not being served properly.
And this is no different in your mind?
absolutely no different.
Mike Journey calls it a voucher, by the way, not a tax rebate, because he says anytime you take money out of the system and use it for private parochial schools, well, that's a voucher, in his opinion. A buzzword those hoping to expand Idaho's school choice options don't like. But if it takes tax dollars away from public schools, well, Journey calls it a voucher. To sell this new deal, they brought in the former governor of Arizona, as we mentioned, Doug Ducey, who was able to get his state to fund an educational savings account plan before he left office in 2022. But what has been pointed out repeatedly since then was how that program, which went live in 2022, didn't have a cap on it. And what was estimated to cost about $65 million ended up costing the state more than $332 million that first year and could be as much as $429 million this year, which was a big contributor to the Grand Canyon state facing a $1.4 billion shortfall in their budget. And another study in Arizona showed the poorer the county, the fewer those enrolled in the voucher program, mostly because, well, there's a lack of private schools in those areas. Arizona's program is not Idaho's plan, we're told. They're not just going to be giving families money. It would be a tax rebate based on what that family already spent. And as we said, it would be capped at $50 million. We'll see if that stays. We plan to dive into this a bit further when we get an actual bill that gets introduced and debated this session.